All right, so let me just say a couple of words about what we briefly want to do this evening. Rosh Hashanah, the theme of Rosh Hashanah is kingship. The primary theme of Rosh Hashanah is the enthronement of God. What that means for us, it's actually not an easy holiday to relate to. Yom Kippur is very simple. Yom Kippur is about human possibility, the mistakes we make, trying to rectify the mistakes, committing for the future. But the Rosh Hashanah is quite different. Rosh Hashanah doesn't have confessions, it doesn't have slichot. It has the shofar, which of course is a prayer. It's an instrument of coronation instrument. It's also a prayer, broken sound of the shofar. But what it says to us, I think, primarily, is that we live in a world which is not ours. We are living in God's world. We are here to do God's bidding. We see ourselves as here to serve. And that's what the idea of Rosh Hashanah is, and that's, on one hand, a very important theme. On the other, I don't think it's something that we necessarily connect to. We connect very much to Yom Kippur, human possibility, our world, transformation. But Rosh Hashanah is more difficult. So I thought this evening, Dr. Kranzler and myself, mostly Dr. Kranzler, would sing some of the nusach of Rosh Hashanah. The nusach is not just the song. It is a basic nusach, and the Ashkenazim have traditions about the nusach. Different parts of the service are sung with a very particular tune. But we would also include in this some of the songs that are often sung in Arab davening. We've sung them, some of these, for quite a number of years. And just one last point about the songs, the nusach. The nusach, the intention of the nusach, and this is true of the Kalbach songs as well, the intention is to bring out the meaning of the words. In particular, the Kalbach nusach, unlike any other, coming out of, it actually comes out of the standard nusach. That's not true of any other Hasidic music. But the Kalbach songs are coming out of the nusach. Let me,
what does that mean?
I'll explain. Let me give one example of a song that we'll sing later. I'm not going to do too much singing. I'll say one thing in the beginning.
Help.
We should all sing.
We always help.
We do, and we should all join in. It's not a performance, really. It's the tefillah before the tefillah. Let's say, for example, one of the basic requests of Rosh Hashanah. It's in Musaf, and it's all the prayers of Rosh Hashanah. Melocha kol ha'olam kulo b'chodecha. We ask God to reign over the whole world. That's the request we make at the end of the Malchiyot section in Musaf, and it's requesting all the prayers of Rosh Hashanah. So there's a nusach. Nusach's like this. Zakeinu l'kei abuteinu melocha kol ha'olam kulo b'chodecha Yinasei al kol ha'aretz b'korecha. That's the nusach. Ova b'adam kunuzecha Avo yoshvei tevel atzecha Lo chakol Kalbach takes the nusach. It's coming out, which is why he's very good for davening, because he can go right back into the nusach. So he takes that. Lo chakol nowadays, unfortunately, we have many congregations forget there is a nusach, but the Kalbach in particular, actually, and he said it himself many times, most of his songs come out of the classical Ashkenazic nusach. Before I turn things over to Chaim to sing some of the nusach and some of the songs that are appropriate to the davening, just wanted to say one last word about one of the experiences that I personally had, Rosh HaShanah Yom Kippur. You know, we davened together for almost 40 years. There was one year, however, about 18 years ago, where I was, for Rosh Hashanah, I was in Israel. And I davened that year at the Leader Minyan, which I think still exists. But it's a very different kind of davening, very interesting davening. And they used to daven once a month. Shabbos once a month, when they finish Rosh Chodesh, 6 hours. 2 hours from Sukkot to Zimra. It was very interesting. It was chanting, it was singing, it was a lot of Kalbach, there was a lot of Eastern music, movement, all kinds of interesting things. And it was always surprises. You didn't know exactly what you were going to get. Very unusual. So I wanted to say that leading into, before we start, on Rosh Hashanah, the Chazan, the Baal Shachar starts with HaMelech. And on Shabbos we start with Shochinah. In this Machzor, let's say it's on page 79, page 80, HaMelech. But just before that, we recite a prayer called Nishmat Chachai. Known as Birkat Hashir, it's recited at the Seder as well. Kalbach himself had a chant for Nishmat, which is very, very lovely. And I remember that one year, the Evan leader led the Sukkot Zimra, and he had a chant, tune. I don't know where he picked it up from. Sounds to me like Sufi, actually. And I thought it was very powerful because it captured the language that we say at the end of Nishmat. At the end of Nishmat, we talk about the Ashkenazic text is, at the end of it, Matzil ani mechazak mimenu v'ani v'yavil mikozlo. We talk about the God who saves the poor person, the weak one. Miyidmelach u'miyishvelach who is like you, who can compare to you. El hagadol hagibar v'hanava Eloyon, mighty and awesome God, the highest God, Konei Shemayim v'aretz, creator of heaven and earth. Na'velcha u'mishabechacha n'fa'ercha u'nvarech Hashem kashecha kol muladri b'ochin hashiyat Hashem v'chol kravai yeshet kasho. Akel b'tatsumotu zecha, God, in the vastness of your power. Hagadol b'chvod shemecha, the majesty of your name is so great. Hakibo lanetzach v'yanora b'norotecha, who is eternal, awesome eternal force, and beyond our comprehension. And this very God who is beyond our comprehension, with awesome power, is the same God who cares about the downtrodden. And there's something about the king, but it's a compassionate king. And we say these words every Shabbos, actually, and I suspect that many of us don't pay sufficient attention to what we're actually saying. So I remember at the Leader Minyan, and I'll turn it over to Chaim after this, but he had the following chant for these words, like this. I don't think you've heard this before. If you have, enjoy it. Matzir ani mechazak mimenu v'yavani v'yevyam migavazlam miyid melach umiyishvelach Umi Yaharoch Lo Hoel HaGadol Hagiborei HaNola El Elyon Konei Shamayim V'Aretz Nehalecha Unishabechacha Unforecha Unvarech Hashem Kodshicha Kamul David Baruchi Nafshi Es Hashem V'chava Kiravai Hashem Kodshah Sabatsuma Suzecha Hagadol B'chva Shemecha Habagiba Lovanetzach Yanora B'nara Secha It captures, it's they would chant that for a long time, and you the sense of this. It sounds Sufi to me. It's a sense of we usually don't have that feeling of this powerful, unbelievably powerful God who is beyond our comprehension. Hanoro v'norotecha. We say this every Shabbos, actually, without really paying attention to the words. And the point of the songs, the tunes, and the nusach is to draw our attention to the words. Has anybody heard that before? No. So I don't know where it comes from. I found it very powerful, and that got me to focus on what comes next, which is Hamelech. So on Rosh HaShanah and Yom Kippur, we start with Hamelech. So Chaim, when you start us off with...
First of all, David's voice transports me to Rosh HaShanah and Yom Kippur. And so I'm there now, because we've gotten together for so long that it's just part of my being. And so Hamelech is what the Baal Shachar is, the Chazan who leads the service of Shachar starts with. Normally the Baal Shachar starts with Shokenat, but of course starts with Hamelech. And the custom is that the Baal Tefillah does not go up to the bima with the word Hamelech. Stays the Baal Tefillah stays in its place, and it's kind of like coming from someplace else, from an ethereal kind of place. And then once he finishes the tune of Hamelech, then goes over to the Stender or the bima, wherever. And that really is the custom, and I think in many ways also tries to create that feeling. So this is the traditional Hamelech. Maram v'kadosh shema.
Sharim Nava Sharim Tisamo Uvidivrei Tzadikim Tizbahora Uvilsham Kasidi B'kerev Kedoshim Tizkamanos. And often it goes up in the octave.
Is that a major key? That sounds like major. Is that major?
I think it is, and it fits with Hamela. It's like the trumpets.
It's unusual, though, because most of our Jewish music is minor.
Yes.
And then Rosh HaShanah, actually, enthroning God, it's a major key. It's the same thing is true of Nusach, we say, and Myra. That's also in a major key, which is very unusual. And I believe that the Chazanim, I believe in Malchiot, Zekrot, and Shofrot, I'm pretty sure that Malchiot they say in a major key, and the others in the minor key. There's something about Hamelech, actually, that we are, it's not a petition, actually, so much here as a statement that God is king, and that we make that, like a trumpet. It's a proclamation. It's a proclamation, and proclamations are in major keys. Jewish prayers in the minor key. Okay. Chaim, what did you, Chaim has a particularly beautiful nusach for Avot. I've heard for many years. Why don't you lead us in the Avot, which is the first blessing of the Shmoneh Esrei. On Rosh HaShanah, we are, unlike the rest and Yom Kippur, unlike the rest of the year, the Ashkenazim adding many things into the davening, the piyutim. Many piyutim. We are various poems, and the Ashkenazim, some of them are extraordinarily difficult to understand, but we are adding many things into the service, and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur have a very particular nusach, a very beautiful nusach for Avot. Actually, very different. Now, there's not just one. There are many of them. But why don't you lead us in the one that you have sung for many years?
Okay.
Sorry.
And this I learned from my uncle and my grandfather, who brought it from Hasidic Galicia. So where exactly it started, I don't know, but I think it's quite old, and there's many variations on it. But this is the variation that I learned. Adonai Eloheinu Hello.
What comes next in the davening is you need to Rosh HaShanah and Yom Kippur. And that is that on Rosh HaShanah Yom Kippur, the Chazan asks permission to pray. And it's interesting actually where the Chazan asks permission. So in Shacharis, the Chazan asks permission next. It starts with Yisod Chachamim and Nevonim. And then there's a poem, which in the Ashkenazic rite, on the first day, it's a set of words, all which end with chil, which means fear. Fear, and that's permission. So the Chazan is asking permission. What's interesting is that in Musaf, the Chazan also asks permission. So the Chazan asks permission in the middle of Musaf. And the nusach for the Rishut in Musaf and Shacharit is the same. In Shacharit it's the beginning of the Shemona Esrei, and from Musaf it's very strange. The Chazan asks permission before Malchiot. So Ronot and Shofrot, Ochio Lakel. After Oleinu V'Shabeach, the Chazan asks permission. There's also a custom that the Chazan asks permission to pray before Musaf. Hineni Yoni Mimaz, which was written as actually a private petition, which became a big performance for the Chazanim. They stand at the back of the shul, they walk up to the front, they get to the Aron Kodesh, they say Shaddai, and it's a very beautiful prayer. But we actually on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, the Chazan asks. The question is why actually? Why Dafka on Rosh Hashanah is the Chazan asking permission? I think there actually are two reasons. There may be many reasons, but two come to mind immediately. One is that the Gemara says that on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, in those days they had no Sidurim, but on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, the Chazan is motzi everybody. The assumption is people don't know how to pray on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur because the prayers are lengthy and complicated. So the Chazan would be the person who would be praying for the entire congregation. So, and we will be praying for them, be motzi them, and therefore, when you have that responsibility, the Chazan feels, who am I to do this? So the Chazan asks permission of the people for whom he's praying. And the second reason is, as I mentioned before, that on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we add all kinds of other things into the service. So because the Chazan is saying all kinds of extras, all these piyutim, it became the practice for the Chazan to ask permission. So there's a nusach for the permission. So when you remind us of the nusach for the rishus, yeah.
So it's misod and achila lakel is the same song
of petition.
So since Misod is coming right after this, and then I'll go into your Resi Mitzosi for a few of the lines.
Right.
Okay. Misod Kakomei Emunvamei Ubilemen Davas Berini Eftecha Benyei Bismillah V'Sakanudel L'Chalom Sulchanei Neimeda L'Chayam Loki V'Adonai Yoresi Itzosi Siyach Lahashvil Kumi Lechalomo Nei Noro Vidochir V'kotonti ma'amas L'chever b'nei nasvil To know Hosanti V'yeh Ahochir Yotzi Habineni Rosh I levei Miriam Tzei Medif Yahom Vahil L'chashei Yedotzem Kibantei Yefumashvei Bituyei Yom Tov Kitzur Nachil, and then it goes on.
That tradition is it's a private prayer, actually. It's very interesting. You have this, it's unusual, private prayer. In Musaf, it's done in the middle of before Malchiot, Zichron, and Shofrot. And one of the theories is that on Rosh HaShanah, because in Musaf we have 9 blessings. In Rosh HaShanah we have 7 blessings in all the other prayers. And there's one theory that even in Musaf, the private individuals, silent Shemona Esrei was always 7 blessings. Only in the Chazoret Hashas, we say the Malchiot, Zichron, and the Shofar, blowing the Shofar, so the Chazan would ask permission before the additional blessings that the Chazan would say. So the Reshut, or Chilo, which is the same tune that Chaim, the same tune, and that would be before Malchiot.
It's a real shift from the regular Musaf.
Yeah.
So it's kind of wakes you up or makes you stand up straight.
In Musaf, so we go turn to Musaf here, and of course the Musaf is basically has the shofar, and the Musaf has the 4 blessings of Rosh Hashanah, Malchiot, Zichron, and Shofrot. So, but inside in the Malchiot of Musaf, so just a word about Malchiot. In the Malchiot, Zichron, and Shofar, and Rosh Hashanah, these 3 blessings, they consist essentially of biblical verses. What's unique about Rosh Hashanah davening is that within the section called Malchiot, and then Shofrot, Zichronot, and Shofrot, there are a minimum of 10 biblical verses, 3 from the Torah, 3 from the Psalms, 3 from the prophets, 10th verse from the Torah. And that's the Malchiot. However, in the 3rd blessing of the Shemona Esrei, Atov Kadosh B'Shivcha, inside that blessing, we have many additions. We add some poems, songs, and they're essentially in the third blessing of the Shemona Esrei, which is the blessing also in which we say Kedusha. So on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we say a very beautiful poem which begins with U'v'chein tein pachtecha Hashem Elokeinu al kol ma'asecha. This is, in this particular Machzor, it's let's see, 100 and, well, the private one is right, but the repetition, it's in Musaf, it's let's see, 151. Okay, 151. We'll go back in a minute. 151, and then if you notice in that very beautiful U'v'chein tein pachtecha, which basically is also Malchiot. It's the Malchiot. The Talmud has a dispute where you say Malchiot, the third blessing or the fourth blessing. We follow essentially the view that we say it in the fourth blessing, 10 verses. There's another view that you say Malchiot in the third blessing, Hamelech HaKadosh, with 3 verses. So this Malchiot, this U'v'chein tein pachtecha, basically is the Malchiot of Yochanan ben Nuri. It's very beautiful. It's so beautiful that we say it even on Yom Kippur, even though it's more appropriate for Rosh Hashanah. So inside the U'v'chein tein pachtecha, V'chein tein kavod Hashem v'yamecha, v'chein tzadikim yiru v'yismachu, on page 151. In the middle of this, we add a little poem. We add Tayu Kol, after we said that the righteous will rejoice, the evil kingdoms will be removed from this earth, passed away from the earth, and then we add inside V'chein tein pachtecha a little poem, V'add Tayu Kol v'yavnecha. It's a poem with an aleph bet. So I thought it would be nice to sing. This song was written by Shlomo Carlebach, and you're probably very familiar with the second part of it. I mean, without the words, but it was actually written for this additional poem that we add on Rosh Hashanah, which ends with V'yinulecha keter rucha. Talk about we will place on God's proverbial head. We will crown God as king. So, Chaim, you want to?
You'll help me out. I would always have David standing next to me. V'yesayu kol le'yadecho v'yal
Actually has a variation on it. Kodosh Shato is actually a very beautiful variation. Kodosh Shato V'nohoro Shmer Erecho Evyein Elobovovak Enibado Derecho Kakosu Aiba, I Sheba, Sivokava, Spamishpon, Yokaya, Lakodosh, Nikadash, Mitzadoko, Tabu Hashem, Edekakudosh. Plays off the nusach. It does it consistently, plays off the nusach. Very beautiful. Maybe we'll come back to this, but it's important to understand. Because people think that Kalbach sings songs without nusach. Exactly the opposite. It's exactly the opposite. He's actually totally devoted to the nusach, but he takes it to all kinds of interesting places. But the nusach is very beautiful. I keep emphasizing this, and I think, unfortunately, a lot of the younger people don't have the sense that there is a nusach. And even those who think they're davening Kalbach davening, it's not that way. It's actually coming from the nusach, and the nusach is very beautiful. So anyway, so now I thought we would, before we move to some other parts of the davening, I thought we would So one of the piyutim, that may be the most famous piyut of the Ashkenazim, is in the Stanley. Stanley is recited by the Ashkenazim before Kedusha. It actually leads into Kedusha because the theme of Kedusha is that we are either joining with or imitating the angels who sing God's praises. So in the Stanley there's a twist on that, and that is the same way that the human beings are judged on Rosh HaShanah, the day of judgment, so too are all the heavenly hosts. Even the angels are being judged. Even the angels stand in fear because the poet says even the angels cannot be vindicated in pure judgment. Even the angels require God's mercies. So that's the Nisan Token. So here, coming back to Kalbach a lot because I feel that he really dealt with the Nusach and tried to take it to different places. So one of the early things that he wrote was he wrote a song for Kibakaras, which has two parts. So Chaim has a variation. Chaim fits in the words differently. I want you some methods. Okay. Let's see. Let's find methods. Let's start with this little push-up from the Doli to the top. Yeah. Okay. And 146 in this.
What are the words?
It starts with it says reader in this one. The shofar gadol, the great shofar is sounded, and the still voice is heard, proclaiming the day of judgment. Everyone is being counted, and they're being judged, and the decree is being written, it's being sealed. So on one hand, that's a frightening thought. Everybody's being judged individually by the all-knowing God. Vakoras, as the shepherd counts the sheep. The second part of it, which Chaim is saying, the second part is saying something different. The shepherd cares about the sheep. The shepherd's what? Vakoras roa edro. The song, the genius of the song actually, he picked up on both aspects. He picks up both on the counting in terms of judgment, the tichtov and kazar dinam. It continues, Rosh HaShanah, as Leonard Cohen said, who by fire. It's basically a frightening thought. But on the other hand is that sense of the shepherd, Vakorat roa edro, and that Shlomo picks up on the two. So let's move to other things that we don't have that much time. So of course on Rosh Hashanah, one of the key things you do is blow the shofar. Rosh Hashanah has the shofar as the central part of the davening, our prayer which has no words. And after we are blowing the shofar, so the Ashkenazi custom is to recite 2 paragraphs afterwards. I thought one is Hayom Arat Olam, which is recited or sung. And then followed by the paragraph, Areshet Sfotenu. There are many tunes for Areshet Sfotenu. For the tradition, we typically sang a bunch of Tzimidrim for Areshet Sfotenu, which is nice. And maybe Chaim, you want to listen to Areshet Sfotenu? Areshet Sfotenu. Areshet Sfotenu. Yeah.
which is the regular Nusach.
The second of the blessings of Rosh Hashanah is Rudoff. Probably the key blessing, because Rudoff has 3 things. It begins with judgment. God remembers, and God is the judge. The Rosh Hashanah is the Day of Judgment. And then it moves from judgment to the two other themes of Zichronot. Moves from judgment to what we call providence. We recall Noah, who was delivered by God, even though everybody is judged, but not everybody is judged equally, because those who seek out God in the davening Torshecha, those who are Torshim, Torshecha, are Yatad Doresh Masei Kulam. So those who seek God, God seeks them out. And then we move to what is the culminating blessing of Zichronot, and maybe the core idea of Rosh Hashanah, Baruch Atah Hashem Zocher HaBrit. On Rosh Hashanah we speak of a covenant. We see ourselves as part of a covenant, as part of a tradition. We see ourselves as part of a community, present community and community over time. And that's the focus. We recall the binding of Isaac at the end of this blessing, Akedat Yitzchak. And the way again, it was citing 10 verses. And it's interesting that the order of the verses in the davening of Rosh Hashanah, 3 from the Torah, 3 from the Psalms, and 3 from the prophets. Normally that's not the order that we have it. Normally we say Tanakh, Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim. But on Rosh Hashanah, it's Torah, Ketuvim, Nevi'im. And why is that so, actually? Why is it Torah, Ketuvim, Nevi'im? And I believe the reason is we want Nevi'im to be last. Because the prophetic verses that we cite are verses of hope, prayers for the future, imagining a different and better world. So on Zichronot, Ayidei Avadecha and Nevi'im Katuv Leimar, I think for many people one of the great highlights of the davening on Rosh Hashanah. And we are speaking of God who is remembering us, not so much the way we are now, but the way we once were. Remembering us as children, as adolescents, and even as little babies. We ask God to recall us, the piece of us that is always a baby, the piece of us that remains innocent. We ask God to remember us, and of course when we are saying these psukim, Zacharti V'Chesed V'Yurayich, all thinking about, of course, our own experiences, no doubt, and it's really powerful. So that's the verses that we are saying, Zichronot, the prophetic verses, Ben Yaakov Ephraim, which are also the Haftorah for Rosh Hashanah. So there are many different ways to recite it. Chaim introduced us many years ago to, I don't know where it's coming from. It's Hazan, whose is it?
It's a choir piece that I learned as a kid.
It's a choir piece.
But it's a very beautiful one. It's
very
I don't know if it was Lewandowski or from whom.
It's one of those guys, right?
Yes.
It's not Kalbach.
It's definitely not Kalbach. Yes. So it's Ayidei Avadecha Nevi'im Katuv Leimar.
It's on page 159 in this.
Halach B'Karasta V'Yaznei Yerushalayim. Ayidei Avadecha Nevi'im Katuv Leimar. Halach B'Karasta V'Yaznei Yerushalayim Leimar. Oh, Amar Hashem. Da 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 da. Oh,
Translation here, by the way, it's correct. Kimidei dabri bo zochares. Kimidei dabri bo. Kimidei dabri bo means vaydaber miyam v'yavon bil Moshe. V'daber bo in biblical it means to speak against. Even as I speak against him, so true, you know. Even as I speak against him, even as I chastise, even as I rebuke, scream and yell. Zochares Karenalo is so powerful here.
The current translation is, as I speak of him.
That's not correct. That's wrong. This is right. Midei dabri bo. Not. It also makes no sense, but the other one makes perfect sense. Even as I talk against him, so they translate correct.
So when I sang it in the choir, we repeated words, but at least the tradition is that when you're the Baal Tefillah, you try very hard not to repeat any words. So I have to do ay a couple of times there instead of repeating the words. But I think we sort of managed.
Okay, so let's just we'll just I think to conclude with two things, and then we'll if anybody has comments or questions or whatever. So I want to come back to the basic theme of Rosh HaShanah, which we began before, which is God's kingship. And we are praying on Rosh Hashanah, it's interesting that we want God to proclaim God's kingship over the whole world. The whole world, not just the Jewish people. With Rosh Hashanah, it's a very universal side to it. Because on page 157. But actually, it's interesting that in the Musaf, before we are praying for the whole world to accept God, we say a verse before that. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Shema Yisrael actually is one of the fourth verse that's from the Torah, which talks about God's kingship. And the reason we say Shema Yisrael is actually in the Torah, there are only 3 verses that say God is king. So we have to somehow conscript a 4th verse, so we say Shema Yisrael. But we say Shema Yisrael not in the body of the request. The way the Musaf works is a long statement and then there's a request. Inside that request is the 10th verse. Except when it comes to Malchiyot, we say the verse before the request. And I think the reason is, before we can pray for the whole world to accept God, everybody should do good, we are recommitting ourselves. Because Shema is called Kabbalat Malchut Shamayim. So before we feel it's appropriate to tell the next guy what they should be doing, we have to speak to ourselves and remind ourselves what we should be doing. So we say Shema Yisrael, and then Elokeinu v'Elokei Avotenu Melocha kol ha'olam kulo b'chodecha. As I started in the beginning, that's what we sing comes out of the Nusach. The Nusach is Melocha kol ha'olam kulo b'chodecha. V'yinosei al kol ha'aretz b'korecha. V'yofa ba'ad adon uzecha. That's the Nusach. So the tune is on HaShanah Yom Kippur to sing the Kaddish. And there are many, many tunes for the Kaddish. So I thought we could conclude with, choose one, that's no.
So many.
So many of them, actually.
We use so many.
I like them all. There's the Mudras and there's the Simcha Yatzeh, which I think is very
Because we spent so many years together, I want to acknowledge Howie Zeisel, who would stand next to me. Very often, Doug would stand on one side, Howie Zeisel would stand on the other side, and amongst others, and was so instrumental in making sure that the minions managed to take place. So, thank you, Howie.
Okay, so the purpose this evening was to, particularly appropriate as the Rudoff lecture, I think, from someone who was very connected to the davening of HaShanah and Kippur. But I think of it as a way to prepare for Rosh HaShanah and Kippur, and I would encourage everybody to actually to look at the davening. The davening is very beautiful. One of the, I think, difficulties that many people have with Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is there's so many different pieces to it that it's easy to forget or not to understand what's at the center and what is peripheral, what is tertiary. So in Rosh Hashanah, it's about, as I said in the beginning, it's about Malchut. It's about kingship. What does it mean? What does that mean? God is king. God is judging. God is present. And it means to think of ourselves as being in God's world and to think about what the implications are in terms of being in God's world, here to serve God, to serve the community, Jewish community, to serve the world, to serve our fellow human beings. It's an opportunity, I think, for all of us to re-energize ourselves and to recommit ourselves and refocus. And the davening is actually not just the nusach, but the words are extremely beautiful, especially the Malchut words and Shofar, which are ancient, a couple thousand years old. They're very beautiful Hebrew. It's really worthwhile to spend some time before Rosh Hashanah to look at the text, the davening, and to try to understand it and try to connect it to our own experience. So thank you for coming.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I just ask a question? I am always in tension when I daven because the music is so beautiful and I want to sing the music and I am repeatedly falling behind in the davening itself. So I am faced with a choice if I would quickly davening or trying or just saying, okay, I'm going to skip those 7 paragraphs. And what is your thoughts? What is your advice?
My personal advice? I don't give that much advice, you know. But
I'm just saying, there's always a tension.
I think one of the problems in general, there were too many words, actually. That's the truth of it. There's just too many words. I'm a believer in picking and choosing. And try to focus in on one part of the davening. That's what I think. There's so many different pieces. I think sometimes the words can get in the way. You know, in Rosh Hashanah, our most important prayer has no words at all, actually. The Shofar. There are no words. We can't find the words yet. We try to express our deepest feelings and we can't find the words. We're asking God to hear our cry and to interpret it for us. So my advice, at least what I like to do, is to pick 1 or 2 things that I really want to focus in on and to focus on those things and to try to connect to them and in general try to, we talk about Yom Kippur fixing everything. Let's fix one thing, and to focus on one thing. I think that's a useful way to see it, and then after Rosh Yom Kippur to try to work on one thing.
One other thing is just the communal singing binds everybody together, and you're sort of davening together. The kahal uplifts the Baal Tefillah as much as the Baal Tefillah, helps the kahal to daven. So that song is one of the ways. So it's not a performance; it's a way of sort of everybody together as a community praying. So that's where the hope is that some of the songs that are chosen are not something you sit back and listen to, but rather that you take part and that you together are uplifted.
I just wanted to say thank you for this evening and for our theme class. Every year, I always wish there was a class that would help, be a roadmap for me through the matzah. And it's nice, and tonight I feel like it opened our hearts and ears also to get ready for the government. Thank you for your
Yes.
I just want to say that growing up with our father being a Tefillah, wherever we lived, he made sure that he found a place, a shul that would be davening at for Yantiv, and he would take us on the night of Slichot on Motzei Shabbat to hear Earl Silber, who taught him the Nusach, and it was such a big part of our family. But I guess watching the twinkle in your eyes as you're singing the Nusach together reminds me so much of this special. My father would have been sitting right up there with you, and he never got enough of it. Before Yom Kippur, we would walk into the house and he would be playing his records, and right after Yantiv was over, he'd call Uncle Shelly, his brother, Shelly Rudoff, and they would listen to this. How did you do? How was this? And they would share in this same brotherly kind of sharing of the way that you touch the neshama, and we all appreciate that very much.
Thank you. The truth is that I'll tell you that very often after Yom Kippur, I sing these tunes for the next 2 months.
Oh, yeah.
They're
in my head, too.
And then I find them very comforting and very helpful to me in all kinds of situations. So I think the davening can be very meaningful to us, and it can be very, I think, important in terms of our moving forward in the world. It connects us to something in a very deep way, and it inspires us. So this we should owe thanks to the composers of these very beautiful prayers, and to all those who have composed the melodies, really, that we sing. I feel very indebted to all those who have come before us and who have really composed these tunes, which get to hopefully the deeper meaning of what we're trying to say and trying to do. Yes.
I'd like to add a point about Nila. Nila is not that far away from Beloved Malka. And I found that the Beloved Malka melodies, such particularly the budgets, are fit in very well into many of the beauty of Nila.
Let me say that is very true. I grew up with budgets, actually. The budgets, Beloved Malka, I think are the greatest set of Nigulim ever written. And what's interesting is that Hamavdi ben Kodesh L'chol was written for Ne'ilah, actually. Think about it. Hamavdi ben Kodesh L'chol, Chatosenu v'yimchol, Tzlachnu al kal v'chomer. It was written for Ne'ilah. In fact, I believe that Goldschmidt's critical edition of the Machzor, he has Hamavdi inside of it. He has it for Ne'ilah. It's really written for Ne'ilah. It's clearly written for Ne'ilah, right? Tzlachnu al kal v'chomer, right? It's Chatosenu v'yimchol, etc. So it's written for the end of Yom Kippur, and we didn't focus on Yom Kippur today. He was its own world, but it's true that he was very special. He was another place, but it's. But before we get to Yom Kippur, I think you got to go for Rosh HaShanah. I mean, you will only appreciate Yom Kippur if you have Rosh Hashanah first, the Day of Judgment, and all that. Then you come to the Day of Mercies, and God sits on, God moves from the throne of judgment to the throne of mercy, and it's there's a whole talich, as we say. Okay, thank you, Ray.